Hi guys, welcome back to my workshop. Today I want to show you the two-stroke engine that we looked at in class, and as I promised you then, we're going to take off some of the ancillary equipment and then take the engine apart bit by bit. I've never done this before. You've probably never seen it done before, so it should be an interesting thing for us both. So just to go through the main points again, like I did before, we'll start off at where you always start with a two-stroke engine. That's the means of starting it, which is this pull cord. This pull cord, as you can see, it retracts very quickly, which means that it's on a coiled spring inside here, and that's attached to a pulley. The actual cord goes around a pulley. So when you pull it, the pulley turns, and that is attached to the crankshaft and a flywheel. So when you turn the pulley, you're turning both the crankshaft and the flywheel. When you pull this, you come across a resistance. If I was to then pull it further, very stiff, but even so, what it's doing is it's turning the crankshaft, driving the crank wheel onto which the big end of the con rod or connecting rod is attached, which drives the piston up and down. So you've translated the rotational energy to linear motion. So you've got the piston going up and down. Well, when it goes up into this, which is the cylinder head, it actually compresses the fuel and air mixture. The fuel, if you remember, is gas and oil. You mix that with air, you introduce it through the induction port into the crankcase, and then that goes from the crankcase to the cylinder head via the transfer port. And the piston, when it ascends, it will compress that fuel air mixture. So by turning that, you've turned the crankshaft, you've sent the piston up into the cylinder head, and you've compressed the fuel air mixture. At the same time, you're turning a flywheel. Now the flywheel here is this thing here. So it's slightly different to your SolidWorks models. No, it's positioned in a different manner. But the flywheel has magnets on. You can see the magnets here, just in this area here. And if I was to get a small screw, you can see that they're quite strong magnets. So as I pull the pull cord, you'll see that actually moves, that turns, and you can see there's a few of these magnets on there. So these magnets will pass into a magnet, pass nearby a magnet that's situated just underneath here, in this area here, and it will generate current, which will go through this cable and up to the spark plug. The spark plug, cap off there to show you. Once at the spark plug, it does what the name implies, it creates a spark. So you've got your you've got your piston compressing the fuel air mixture in the top of this cylinder head, and now you've got a spark. Therefore, you've got an explosion, which then sends the piston driving straight the other way. Okay, and that is the basis of your two-stroke cycle engine. So what we're going to do today is take off some of the parts and see what's in them, how they're interface to the rest of the parts, and in general make comment on how these things were manufactured and the like. So I'm armed with a series of tools. I've got some WD-40, probably shouldn't be advertising that. But very useful stuff for degreasing and unclogging things. A couple of pairs of, a pair of cutters, just in case one of these wires attached here won't remove very easily. A pair of pliers, long nose pliers, which are always very useful. If I drop some screws or something inside the engine and everything, I might be able to take them out with that. I've got a set of spanners which may be a little overkill, but I don't know what I'm going to come up against. Screwdrivers, range of screwdrivers, from a flat-headed screwdriver to Phillips screwdrivers or posi drive screwdrivers, however you like to call them. So we'll take a set of Allen keys, and I've got, let's see now, that one. Let's see, we'll take off the exhaust filter. In higher end models, this could be a catalytic converter, but this is not a high end model. This is a very cheap thing. So this is a box. There'll be a muffler inside. You can see the interface to which attaches to here, and you'll also see, or you might not be able to see just at the moment, how this is actually nice and flat, which means it's been machined off after it's been cast. We'll talk about the casting process there. But you can see inside there, you can see there's the looks like the piston lined up inside there, inside the cylinder head, right in there. Let's see if I can just down there. So that will be the piston. So now what we'll do is take off the cylinder, the pulley cover. This one only seems to have 2 screws attached to it, so I think they have gone missing in the past and been used for something else. I don't know what. This one's got a, I don't know if you can see that, this one's got a bracket on it. The only reason for that bracket is to actually attach it to a frame, which would go onto your back straps, so you could carry it on your back. Okay, so that's of no consequence at all, so we'll put that away. So what we have here, you can see here, a gasket. Gaskets take many different forms and are made out of many different materials. Neoprene, asbestos, the asbestos substitute type materials. It can be paper, it can be card, and in this case it's a soft metal. Its purpose is to actually seal. So when you press something against something else, and this is in between, it will actually compress and form a very nice seal. It will actually embed itself, or the things that you're attaching will embed themselves into the gasket, forming a nice seal. So they can be made out of all sorts of things. So what have we got in here? Well, that's where your pulley is, and where the spring will be mounted. Can I get this out easily enough? I don't know. We will try. Certainly firmly done. Now, one of the things that I am a little bit concerned about, because there is a spring in there, I'm just wondering if this is not going to go all over the place when I let it, when I unscrew it. So we shall see. We shall see. Okay, so this is just basically a securing device. Interesting securing device. Piece of a nylon material screwed through the center, which is going to screw down into this part. You'll see there's a spring here. It's there. So it will compress onto that. That will stop it from vibrating free. It'll create a force, an upward force, so it doesn't vibrate free, and it'll also press this thing down. There is two slots which this goes into. These bars here will stop it from spinning round if it should come loose. So you've got an upward force of the spring holding the this so it doesn't vibrate loose, and also you've got this. Should it come a little bit loose, it won't rotate. So that comes up against these stops. So that's kind of interesting. So we'll take that out, and we'll take the spring out. This is where things get a little bit hairy, because in here, yeah, I'm going to have some trouble. You can see that there is a spring. By golly, by gum, and it's all unravelled. And so that is not good as far as putting it back together again is concerned. But you can see that there's the pulley and the cord that runs around the pulley. Okay, fair enough. I'll try and deal with that later. So, what's on the business end of this thing? All of that was attached to this. And that's rather interesting. You can see how it has these ascending edges here, and these edges will go up against that nylon pulley, and that will cause the, when you pull the nylon pulley, that will actually rotate this. And I can feel some resistance as that happens. I can't make a sound or anything, so okay, so that is interesting. We've got a nut on there. Will I be able to find something nut so we can drive? We need to drive that around. We need to secure that shaft, I think, that side. So something inside there needs to be held in order to undo that bit. That, although you'd say that that was connected to the drive shaft, it isn't all the way through. So it's not directly through, therefore it is separate from that. Therefore there will be a clutch in the system, which hopefully we can reveal. Okay, where do we go from here? I tell you what, let's take off this this casing here. Okay, that's rather hard to do. So what I'll probably do is there we go. Leverage. It seems to have come undone nicely. We can do that. Now let's see, how about this? How about if we take this off next? Okay, it's quite tight. There we go. These are coming out all right. Quite surprising really, because it is a very old engine. So quite cheap. Not sure why that should be a little bit tight in there, but it is. Okay, that's good. So we've got a whole bunch of screws, and we'll keep them over here nicely there, and off this comes. Now this is your drive shaft for the flexible drive of the actual cutting end. So that will fit onto there. You've got a little spring-loaded clip here. So when you pass the shaft into there over that square drive, it'll actually snap into place with this going into a hole that would be on the flexible drive shaft. So yeah, here we've got the outer casing of your clutch. And here is your clutch. So reasonably typical design. We have your spring loading this so that it holds it away from the outer edge here, and these are pivoted. This one's pivoted here, this one's pivoted here. So when this engine reaches a desired revs, when you apply the throttle on the grass cutter and it reaches the desired revs, these will actually fly open. Although certainly not today, they're certainly not going to do that readily. So you can see that they do move. They are spring loaded, remember, so but you can see that movement there. So when this rotates due to the action of the engine and the crankshaft, when this rotates at a certain number of revs, these will actually come into contact with the outer casing, this here, and as soon as it comes under the outer casing, it will spin that round, thus spinning the drive round. You can see the drive going round, and therefore driving the grass cutting tool itself. So that's quite good, really. So we've got the clutch in this end. So So let's see, where do we go from here? Let's take off the this casing. Get a better look at things. Very stubborn. Same here. Very good. Let's see if we can persuade it a little. A bit better. And yes, we've got it. That's good. Now, I have no intention of putting this back together, which is a good job, because I honestly don't know if I can do it or not. So, tapping the Allen key here has just enabled it to seat in a little bit more, and it has a secondary effect. You can do this with screwdrivers. Sometimes the screwdrivers have a metal head on them like this, and if you get it under a screw and just tap that, it'll actually break the seal a little bit between the threads, so it makes it easier for it to come out. Right, so moving this now. Can I move it? Is there anything else holding it? There is somewhere. Now that is connected to that. A little bit of a gentle persuasion, we'll see. Yes, it does. Right, it comes off. Now, you will note here, for instance, you've got your connection lugs here, which your screws are going through. Fair enough. On two of them, you've got two holes like this, but you will notice that one, one smaller than the other, but we haven't taken the screw out of them. Why not? Because that is filled with this dowel here. Now you remember, perhaps on your last course where you did the pit stop challenge, you were using dowels on your deckings. Well, this is a similar sort of thing. It forms a spigot, so it actually aligns that casing firmly in place so that they can, probably by robot, position the screws very accurately and screw them straight in, no problem. But here we have the clutch. Oh, can you hear that? So that's interesting. Where the magnets will be in here somewhere. So this is where the magnets will pass that current into this device here and up the cable into the spark plug. Here we have the clutch. Can we see anything else? Can we get any more information? I don't know. But the flywheel here is where we've got the magnets. Very strong magnet, actually. And there's two magnets there. And that's all there is, actually. Just the two magnets. Because this isn't a water-cooled device, we need air to circulate and keep it reasonably cool. So you'll notice that the flywheel has actually got these fins on it as well. So that's keeping the whole thing cool. Right, where do we go from here? I think we can take off yes. What I think we'll do is we'll make another video and separate those parts later. Just to absorb what we've got. We'll talk about this in class. We'll have a look using webcams at the various components. I'll try and clean this up a little bit so that we can look at the various components a little bit more precisely, and we'll just discuss on what we see. Okay then, thank you for listening for this period, and as I say, I'll make another little video, and we'll try and strip some more down and talk about the various parts. In the class, what we'll do is we'll talk about the parts, but we'll also talk about the materials that they used, and we'll talk about the methods of manufacture, or the possible methods of manufacture. So, should be interesting. Let's see. Thank you.